Well, hey there, my name's Luke, and you're listening to the Good Folks Doing Good Work podcast, a podcast where I interview folks all throughout the coffee supply circle about the good they're trying to bring into the world and hopefully remind you to keep bringing good things into this world in your context. Let's get into this week's podcast. Hey, before we get started, I have to tell you two quick things. Number one, want to share something brand new that they're working on that's going to be released this year, all the way at the end of the episode. Now, I didn't intend to talk about it there, but that's just where it ended up. So you're going to have to stick around. The second thing is technology was fighting us this entire episode. So some of the audio, some of the video isn't what it usually is. Hang with us. Juan is worth listening to. He's got an awesome story and he's doing some really good work in Colombia. And so bear with us and let's learn about what Juan's up to. All right, to the show.
Well, today I have the privilege of chatting with Juan Diaz, who's the founder and director of KWC, which stands for Know, with a K, Where Coffee. KWC is a network that sources coffee to order for roasters around the globe. This network is composed of producers, roasters, and coffee professionals who curate where coffee goes internationally. Think of KWC as your quality control team at origin in Colombia. All the way from Colombia, Juan, welcome to the Good Folks podcast.
Hey, how are you, Luke? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well. I heard that you're into cafe racers, and I'm curious what your bucket list motorcycle trip is.
My bucket list motorcycle trip. That's actually a great question. I think if I did it again, because I think I've hit that bucket list without knowing it was one, I did about the 50% of the coast of Greece on a motorcycle, not a cafe racer. And that was an amazing trip. All the way through mountains and all the way through like beach. So for sure, I think one of those. I think when I was younger, I thought cafe racers are a fun thing to do a trip with, but they're definitely very uncomfortable. It's really like a A to B place. So that's the truth. I've done like 12-hour trips or 14-hour trips, and it's very hard. It's very difficult. It's very hurts the body a lot for sure.
Well, how many bikes do you have at the moment?
I don't have any bikes. I grew out of it. It was a big part of my life, especially when I started in coffee very young. I started riding when I was 19. And I think I rode all the way up to the age of like 26, 27. My first vehicle in Colombia was a mountain bike. But I had up to 4 to 6 bikes my whole life. The coolest one, cafe racer style, was a 1972 CB500 Honda that I had in Atlanta, Georgia, which was a lot of fun. And then my first bike ever was just this crazy modified thing that we cut up together and put together.
Hey, really quickly, I have 3 things I want to share with you. Number one, I run a consulting firm called Pomelo Coffee Consulting, and I only work with coffee roasters, and I help them with 3 things: their people, their processes, and their profit. Now, within Pomelo, I also run a cohort for owners, and then there's a separate one for leaders that work for coffee roasters. Now, they're structured similarly. There's some learning opportunities, there's some reading opportunities, there's some hot seat sections, and I got to tell you, it's been pretty amazing to see what's possible when a group of owners and leaders are sharing the things that they're facing, both the good things and the bad things, and providing some camaraderie and also a mirror to see that I'm not alone in this world, in this business, and there's people who are doing similar things, maybe have already done the things that I'm doing and that I'm facing. So if that sounds interesting to you and you want to find some other roasters and have some camaraderie with them, you can go to my website, pomelocoffeeconsulting.com, go to the Junto tab. There's a tab at the top of my website, and you can learn more and see if you're a good fit for that. Lastly, I wrote a book. It's called The Owner's Manual, A Guide to Sustaining a Coffee Roaster, and really it fleshes out the framework that I use when I work with clients, the core 7 that is. And if that's something that sounds interesting to you, you can go to my website. There's a tab at the top that says book, and you can snag yourself a copy. All right, back to the show.
I've heard you say on another podcast that coffee adopted you. What did you mean by that?
So my real story is I am a first generation American Colombian. I was born in Florida in 1995. My entire family is Colombian. My mom has done her own background check, and we're 98% native to South America. But nobody in my family that I know of grows coffee. I don't have that kind of original Colombian story where it was like, oh, we have a coffee growing family or farm, or someone did, or someone picked coffee. We did always drink coffee at home from very young, from grandma mostly. A lot of milk and sugar. It was mostly for me like a treat. But I say it adopted me because it brought me back to my family's roots, and it brought me back to my culture to stay, in a way. It's something that I would have never thought about in the past. So that's why I always say that coffee adopted me.
And so, when did you decide to go head first into coffee then?
I thought it was just a job. I started in college when I was around 18 years old. I had my first coffee job in a coffee shop called Nowhere Coffee. It was a multi-roaster and located in Gainesville, Florida. I was hired there as a barista without like a formal interview, but my first day was at a cupping table out in Bold Bean in Jacksonville. 13 years, if I'm wrong on my math right there, something around there. 11 years that's been since that.
So, if I'm not mistaken, there's three different sides to KWC. There's the roasting side, there's the sourcing side, and there's the export side. How would you describe the model of KWC for somebody who's not familiar and is used to working with a traditional import-export partner?
So the best way to describe it is something new that we're like evolving to, which is kind of like a music label. The way that we do it is the same thing, where managers are for coffee growers or producers in a way, but we're also the quality control group for a roaster. So to best describe it is we're kind of like a necessary unit at origin to kind of make sure that the venue in this case, being the roaster, right? And then the artists get everything that they need. So if you're a roaster, in this case, you're the venue and you need an artist to come to your venue, your roastery. And in this case, say his name is Edison Argote. We make sure Edison Argote is taken care of. We make sure that all his contracts are correct and that he's going to deliver the art that you're asking for, the music in this case, or the coffee, so that you can get it. And then to describe a little bit briefly those like categories in a little detail. So our number one is mentioned sourcing. To explain for sourcing, it's all green coffee all over the world, focused on green, small or large exports. We have KWC export, which sometimes gets a little confused with that. Export is created for producers or for private labels. So we also private label if people want us to do it. But the export side is producers that actually have family members at destinations and want roasted coffee. We help them get the coffee there. So that's an export, like logistics.
Interesting.
It's one that we don't talk about too much because we have to always be very careful because there's a lot of security reasons that we need to do that. And then we have KWC roasting, which would be like our second powerhouse. And then we have KWC retreats, which is our like original standout.
What happens in these retreats? How is it different than an origin trip?
Well, the way that it started, it was different because it was created focused on baristas. I created this at a coffee shop where I last worked as a barista. So usually when you think of an origin trip, the last people that you think are going on an origin trip are baristas every day. And I found a lack of that, and I found a lack of my own connection to origin as a fellow competitor and being with other baristas. So I created a program where I would create payment plans for baristas to have it approachable. So you could put $200 down,
Wow.
and I would take care of the whole trip, and then you would go back to work and then pay me off within the year. So
So
that's
cool.
what it was before, and it was really made to order. So what I used to do was ask the baristas to do like an interview with me, let me know what they wanted to learn to see what levels everybody was at. And I didn't want to take everyone to, I don't want to say cliche, but to a very modernized farm. I wanted to learn with them as a barista myself what coffee growing is really like. That is our full like first heart, our first heart into starting what KWC has become today.
I think that's so important because I think the people that get to go to Origin oftentimes never interact with the frontline customers. And the first time I went to Origin, I was doing education for a roaster. Primarily, my role was to interface with frontline workers, and it provided so much more context for me to be able to show the value and also the labor and the amount of hands that are involved, being able to see that firsthand. And I just really appreciate that you created it for baristas to be able to see that, because it It is a formative experience to see with your own eyes. Pictures are great, videos are great, but to see with your own eyes how much work goes into it, how steep these mountains are this coffee's grown on, to smell flowering coffee trees. So is that still the angle, or has it shifted away from specifically being for baristas?
It definitely shifted a lot. We kind of changed another focus for stuff for baristas for it to be approachable. But I'll add something to what you said. Videos are great, pictures are great. To add that, because we haven't done a retreat in so long, to be honest, based on baristas is. So you know when the word retreats is fun because it's like you think you're gonna go hang out and learn about coffee. So I'm a little crazy and I love to work hard. And I think that's the only way to learn. So we actually used to plant and like be part of the workforce. It wasn't like I wasn't educational in the sense of you're gonna stand there, we're gonna listen, and I'm gonna translate. I think on my first retreat we planted 50 coffee trees and then 60 between just baristas, like 6 people, like on the edge of the mountain. And that was 2 days of the retreat. And you're with me just for a week. And then after we were done planting, we would go and pick and process ourselves. It wasn't like a watch me do it thing. It was like we're gonna do it. But I think that was definitely something different that I wanted to do. I think people thought they're gonna come hang out. And when I was sending the itinerary, they're like, dude, we're just gonna pick coffee a whole day. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I wanna know what that's like. Now it transforms to something to order. So roasters want to meet the people they're buying coffee from, and they also want to
Right.
understand what we mean when KWC when we talk about a grower to a producer. So we have a lot of superstars that go from like Edison to Nogales, and then we have people like Monica Verdugo or Uwalaco, which are producers that are like tier one. Basically, they're still living off their farm, in their farm, day to day. This is their life, right? And then we change it into a producer, which is somebody that has a hierarchy. It's a chain of command. Super important to understand these roles, you know? We can think about it like a pop-up cart, cafe. And then finally, we have Blue Bottom. There's still coffee shops. They serve coffee. But two different games, right? We'll talk about that a lot too. A lot of like how I try to mirror the industry that I came from to the new industry that I'm really in now. So that's how it's changed. It's really what do you need? What do you really want to learn? And then all I do is the logistics.
So I don't think it's a requirement for folks to go to Origin, but I do think it is really helpful. And especially if someone has a resource like yourself who is doing QC on the ground and sort of curating their experience for what green coffees are in front of them. But I do think it's really helpful for folks to learn and understand the whole process from how does a cherry get from a coffee tree to here in a consuming country. What are the primary things that roasters and green buyers are trying to learn when they do come to visit and meet producers that they're buying from?
I think in my experience, what they want to learn is a lot of the cost of production and where maybe money is going. I think that's everybody's question. And I think that the most difficult part to learn and understand at Origin, and it's still to me the hardest part, is understanding yield factors. We mostly are used to a yield factor, meaning we put coffee in a roaster, and depending on our roast style, we're going to lose a certain amount of coffee.
Right.
But never ever is a roaster ever thinking, okay, what was the yield factor? Just how you explained, from the tree to the processing, from the processing to the mill, and then from the mill, maybe there's an extra step depending on the coffee, depending on the process. This extra step could be a visual evaluation where it's manually selected, or a machine does it. But still, that means every single time there was less, and there was still that initial value. So I think roasters really want to understand that. Most roasters that we work with, KWC, and we've met before, and actually we should talk about how we met in person because I really never forgot when you told me, hey man, I really like those questions you asked. And I'm a big hitter with my questions. I'm a big hitter on understanding perspectives, meaning I want to understand what the roasters really want when they come out Origin. Like you said, today's day, maybe it's not so necessary. I think today it's kind of like a personal checkmark. It's a little bit of a personal vendetta, but I think that's okay. I don't think that's bad. I think roasters should definitely still try to come out and just be real with their motive. Some people just want content. I had Seats Coffee Roasters come, and he was actually gifting people. I thought this was really sweet. He was gifting some of his baristas that were leaving his company after being such a long time. He was bringing people that were on the way out because they never got to see that.
I love that.
I think that's super freaking nice. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
But he was real with it. He's like, hey man, I'm gonna just go hang out with you. We buy coffee from you all year long. We have this one girl who's with us 5 years. She's leaving, and we want to gift her this. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome.
So cool.
So I think now it's just those kind of questions and those conversations.
It's really interesting. I talking about yield and how much you lose during processing. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just imagining if you start with a pound of cherry, by the time it gets here, it's just you're constantly losing volume, even until it's in the roaster, because you have weight loss, and then there's shrinkage and stuff too. All the business side of loss there. But I've never thought of that. Thanks for framing that.
Yeah, so we could think that 5 kg of wet cherry is going to give you 1 kg of dry parchment. 1 kg for anybody listening in Colombia is 1,000 grams. We'll keep it how the rest of the world does it, right? And from those 1,000 grams, potentially you're going to maybe lose 15% in the milling. Just milling, right? So how I would do it if I was trying to figure out how much coffee I was going to have before roasting, I would just be safe and use a 20%. So we're going to say that those 5 kg of cherry are going to give me 800 green perfect, meaning selected, no defects, zero faults. And then I'm going to put it in the roaster, and well, you're the roasting consultant, so I put those 800 grams in the roaster, and then depending on my roasting style,
13 to 70%.
And then depending on where you're roasting, which is real, maybe you're doing 20%, which is fair. It's your public, and that's even more.
Yeah.
So that's what you get at the end. I think it's kind of fun to understand it. I guess that people at origin have it in their mind and they think it's something very easy, but for sure at destination it's different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like a constant process of loss from the moment it's picked all the way until it's a finished product we get to enjoy. What do roasters not understand, or roaster screen buyers not understand about buying green coffee or green coffee in general that's detrimental to the industry?
I think that they don't understand how to make the right questions. I think that that's always what I say. In many podcasts that I've been on, it's always, I think, the right question of where you're buying your coffee. So I think the most detrimental thing is thinking that the transaction is as easy as it feels when you get your coffee. So what I mean by that is it's not so transactional at origin. There's a lot of livelihoods that are involved, and we really don't know who's really controlling that. So when you buy a coffee, most of the time, if you are saying that your coffee is from a coffee grower, right? This is a person that does not export, that does not cup, that's turning in parchment into a cooperative or into an exporter. What we don't know that's detrimental is we don't actually know what farm gate is. We just use it.
Right.
We just say like, oh, my importer said this, and then unfortunately KWC ran into your transparency report. Like, we don't do that stuff. Like I run into it and I'm like, and I do the numbers and I'm like, wait a second, that's not even what coffee cost today.
Yeah.
Because now that we're here, right? Now that I'm here for 5 years, I can retract it and be like, no way you're paying for that for parchment. You're either stealing half the coffee or it's not working out.
Yeah.
Right. So that's I think what's tough. I think what's mostly detrimental in green coffee and everything has been not being well prepared as roasters to continuously increase prices to the future.
Yeah.
We're always ready to buy for the future, right? As an exporter, right? You always want to buy futures.
Yeah.
But as roasters, we're never ready to raise price on the future. So that doesn't feel so rough later on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's more of a thing that we're honestly afraid of, right?
I pick up 2 things from that. One, it's this well-intentioned misunderstanding of how the coffee moves and who gets paid when, and also a misunderstanding of the larger perspective of the industry around what are we doing. I really like this guy's name's Blair Inns, and he does sales consulting, and he talks about how your pricing is positioning. And I think roasters, so on the consuming side, I'm gonna pick on them a little bit, we think that our pricing needs to be competitive. Our pricing is positioning. Where do we want to see our coffee in the marketplace? Who do we want to sell to? Do we want to be competing on price, or do we want to be competing on something other than that? If we're in specialty, then why is the specific dollar amount for a coffee, or let's say a few cents, going to determine whether or not you're going to buy a coffee or not? And I understand we have business practices that are, we have to make money, but I really appreciate how you frame that, how it's both of those two topics. And specifically, we have to educate ourselves on our side of the supply circle around what is actually happening. How does coffee actually move, and how and when do producers get paid?
I think not to let this thought go away. You saying that comes to like really fun terms that I am not a fan of, or our network
Mhm.
in KWC, which are
Mhm.
fair trade
Mhm.
or a fair like price. How about we think about it like you and I that talk to Rose all the time, like how about like fair sales,
Yeah.
right? So what that means is people sometimes we send coffee and they tell me, why is your coffee so much less than your competitors?
Mhm.
And it's because I'm not trying to eat the world alive on selling coffee. I bought it for a price. I know what it took to source it. I'm adding all my value and I'm adding my cost of production to it. I think this is the fair sales price for what I bought.
Mhm.
I didn't change it because I felt that that coffee was so good that I needed it to be up here. I am
Mhm.
selling it at the cost that I got it. Why? So that down the road, when that cost of production does change, I'm not hitting you with a weirder dollar amount that doesn't make sense.
Right.
So I think a lot of roasters could look back and be like, "Hey, are we selling also coffee fairly
Mhm.
for everyone?"
Yeah.
And when I mean everyone, it's hard, especially in a country where you are. I mean, I used to live in America, but being in the U.S., it's tough because what we see, and I'm sure you lived it with your roasters, is like maybe you get a roaster out in I don't know, Montgomery, Alabama, and they're gonna go and pick up a roaster maybe in some small town in Texas, but their cost of production is not the same. And they're gonna be like, "Well, Luke, how are
Right.
they getting coffee so cheap?" And it's like, dude, they live in a rural area. They have a
Yeah.
different livelihood than you.
Yeah.
They're probably at a home roaster. Of course, they could get that. And
Yeah.
it's like a weird thing where people don't want to explain that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's what I ask now. It's what I ask my
Yeah.
producer. My producer brings me a coffee away from quality. I don't even say specialty. It's like I assume I'm in Colombia. I assume most of 90% of stuff is quality.
Mhm.
I'm gonna ask him, hey, what is your cost of production? Why is
Mhm.
it this value? If it's too low or if it's too high?
Mhm.
Why do I ask that? Because when I go to the roaster and he tells me, hey, what about this? I'm like, hey, this is what it costs. Like
Yeah.
I'm only here to cup it.
Yeah.
I'm here
Yeah.
to make sure you buy what you like, and I'll make sure to cup it with our team, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's competitive. I agree with you. I think I'm in the most I can say. People are always like, oh, Colombia is the best coffee. Colombia is the most competitive coffee country in the world.
Yeah.
We'll get number one for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here it's this is the Wild West.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's grandmother here has coffee.
Yeah. And it's also the best.
It's also very good. I think it's very diverse. I think it's very good. I think it's for sure very diverse. It's very there's so much innovation. There's so much communication.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
approachable. So many great things, which is why it's so competitive. We have
Yeah.
coffee all year round. It's fresh all year round. You
Mhm.
almost can never have a coffee menu and not see Colombian coffee.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah, I really resonate with all of that, because I mean, my work is all around how do I help people reframe what they're already doing so that it can be sustainable for the whole supply circle. It has to be. And I think I saw it all last year, right? Like, we had folks were freaking out about prices that, a C market that was nearing, what was it? I forget what it tapped out at, like 418 or something like that. Um, and I look back, I was working for a roaster in 2020, and our blenders at that point were around that dollar amount per pound green. And so, and we were making money. It was one of the most profitable companies I ever worked for. And I look at that and I'm like, I think we've misunderstood how this business works. And I also think that we are so focused on pennies that we have forgotten what it means to run businesses that are good for the whole supply circle. I'm speaking from a Western perspective, of course. So I appreciate what you're saying, that we don't need to gouge anybody. We need to run good businesses. We need to make a margin. We need to take care of ourselves and our teams. But we don't have to, we don't want to surprise anybody when we have to raise their prices 15% because we haven't been thoughtful about how we're running our businesses for the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's complex. I think another thing is just, look, I think a big thing that we don't talk about worldwide that exists is all the coffee credit.
Yeah.
Look, when the coffee went up, we didn't scatter.
Yeah.
I work with quality coffee. I'm not even close to that C
Yeah.
market. We don't have, our blenders start at 5.
Yeah.
And that's the FOB. And that's,
Yeah.
for me, that's too cheap.
Yeah.
And when I say too cheap, I'm not going like, oh, I want to make money. No, I'm saying like, looking at the work and looking at what I've learned and how much it's gone up. When the C market was low, my cap was always $50 to $1 above that cap. So I always said, hey, if I want a quality company and I want to sell to quality people, what am I going to be doing fighting for pennies? Right.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned something important, credit. I think something that you probably experience a lot and that I experience in Green is people want coffee credit.
Yeah.
Want to not get this loan to get coffee. So they get it from an importer, and then an importer is doing that to an exporter, and an exporter is doing that to a producer.
Yeah.
And then how many people did we see close down last year? How many importers did we see close down? Well, that meant there was a big gap and they were just running off future sales, off future coffee.
Yeah.
They most likely, and I got in trouble with this for some importers, they most likely are not running a quality business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, everybody's like, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay with the price? And I'm like, I'm great. We have coffees that start at 12. They've been charging me 12 for 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have producers that have been charging me the same since I moved to Colombia because they were always up here.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not for everybody. I totally understand. I get it.
Right.
But they were never worried. They were already ready.
Yeah. It's a good reframe to think and a good thing to be aware of. Speaking of education and when you mentioned earlier, you're like, I see the transparency reports and Farmgate said one number and there's no way that's real. I see the same thing happening with roasters on this side of the supply circle, not understanding how the futures market works and not understanding how this side of the supply circle is functioning, and blew my mind. I was at I did a panel in the fall with a couple of importers that you've heard of, and one of the questions I asked them was, how much coffee do you have on hand? Like right now, how much coffee is landed in your warehouse right now? And one of them didn't have a clue, which to me says probably not very much. The other one said they had about just shy of 3 months worth of coffee. And the last one said they had about between 2 and 4 weeks worth of coffee before they were going to be empty. And she had said, she was like, the few months prior, she was like, we almost ran out. Like there was contracts that I had that coffee was on the water, but it had not landed. And I thought we weren't going to be able to fulfill it. She's like, luckily it landed in time and we were able to send it immediately. But that, in my opinion, I don't think that roasters understand the razor's edge that a lot of the folks that they're relying on this side of the supply circle are running on. And I think we would do well as an industry to educate ourselves a little bit more on how does the futures market work? What are the importers motivated by? And how do I fit into that piece? And how do I sort out who I should be supporting in this chain?
It's tough. I mean, I like all the things that you mentioned, because ask me that question. I mean, I'm not on paper, technically I'm not an importer. Ask me how much coffee I have stored in Colombia and ask me how much coffee I have stored in the US. Let's just say
how much?
0.
Yeah. Yeah.
I learned off other businesses that I don't have to work off of stock.
Yeah.
Everything that ever touches here just touches one time. I don't have
Mhm.
warehouse. There's no
Mhm.
interest. Ask me how much
Mhm.
money I owe banks.
How much?
Zero. Zero.
0. So good.
Ask an importer how much.
Millions, 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 millions,
Could
millions.
be. Um, I did work for an importer. I won't mention the name. That we bankrupted off one roaster,
Mhm.
declaring bankruptcy.
Mhm.
Took one roaster. Took one
Mm.
roaster not paying on time for them to be minutes.
Yeah. So okay, so let's make this practical for roasters though. Let's say there's a roaster and he's like, or she or they are like, oh man, I like what I'm hearing. I realize that maybe I need to diversify my where I'm getting coffee from. I'm traditionally buying from the import houses that we've all heard of, which is nothing wrong with that. But I want to diversify. I don't know how. Where do I start? How can I work with someone like Juan? Like, do I need to order a whole container, or like how does it even? How do I even start to think about this process? What would you say to that roaster who's like, I understand the need, I want to do it, I'm afraid, I feel like it's a steep learning curve. What would you say to them?
Where are you located?
Hmm.
Number one.
Mhm.
Who's your public? And how do you roast? What I mean, maybe you're someone like, hey, I'd love to talk to. That's fine. I'm happy to sell coffee. People who want to dark roast. It's not that they're not quality. I sell for quality people. I think that to some people it sounds like, oh, you only sell to the best roasters. No, no, I sell to good people and I buy from good people. That's all, right? So I would ask them that, and I would ask them, what price do you need? And then I will find the coffee that fits those categories. Why do I say price? Because only a roaster is gonna know what they can budge, a minimum and a maximum. And if they give me that, I already have over 200 coffees, so I could think all of these, no, and this is the range. So I would ask those questions before sending a million samples or before sending them the most expensive geisha, if that's not your thing, right? And the last thing that we do here at KWC that's a little bit different, it's a bit of a long game, is send me your Instagram and your website. Let me study your business. I will first think like the roaster. I cannot think as the green buyer. I cannot think as an exporter, and I can't think as the importer. That's where I dislike, and Luke, that we've talked before. I dislike always trying to be so different. I think we have evolved that our team is built from baristas that are roasters and have worked at roasteries. So it's not. I am not a sales guy. I didn't go to sales school. I didn't manage any of that. We worked in coffee shops. We know what people want. So if you
Mhm.
needed, like, we've worked together, like, indirectly. Roasters come to me with all these questions. I'm like, hey, just go to Pomelo Consulting. He knows how to help your business stay alive. And when you need Greek coffee, hit me up.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
so the point of that, what I'm getting at is, if I really want to help them out, I can't offer them a whole list of coffees. Is I have to really study
Right.
my who they're going to be, and then go from there. So I think I would be basically the guy to come for quality coffee and to be very honest on what you can and cannot pay.
Do you have any volume restrictions or constraints?
I have, so for very, very expensive coffee. When I say expensive, by the way, KWC, there's not a coffee over $45 a kg, which is honestly not that expensive when you think about a global market scale. That for those coffees, I say 5 kg, and for small roasters, 10 kg is our minimum order, which I think is completely
Yeah.
approachable.
Yeah,
Um,
that's very approachable.
for maximum volumes, it's a hard game. I feel like something with the roasters, and I gotta ask you, if you're a roaster, people always want to ask me how much is available. My farmer could have 1 hectare, and if I said how much is available, he's gonna tell me a ridiculous number he will not produce.
Yeah.
But on today's
Yeah,
on,
totally.
on today's show, KWC, we buy coffee cherry from each other's neighbors and process it. So they're gonna tell me 5 containers. No, look, for most expensive coffees, that I work a lot with, Black and White, shout out to them, and Kurt Coffee. I tell them, hey, can we please buy at 700 kg max? And they're like, dude, what do you mean? You don't want to sell a lot of coffee? And I'm like, I do, but I want to QC 700 batch sizes at a time. Why do I
Sure.
recommend that? I want to protect my artists. and I want to protect my venue. If I overextend myself because I'm money hungry and I tell you, yeah, let's do 5,000 kg. Now, if I make one mistake, someone's not going to get paid and someone's not going to get coffee at their table. And that's
Yeah.
going to go because I wanted to go and tell you, oh, I can make 10,000 kg. And I don't know if you like records and I don't know if you like music, but if you like vinyls and somebody made 20,000 vinyl records, that doesn't cost a lot of money. But if I tell you, hey, man,
Yeah,
I have
totally.
30 vinyl records and I only have 30, people want that vinyl. You get my drift on
100%.
that?
Yeah,
People want to
made by
get,
hand, inspected. Yeah,
there's a small amount, it's made to order. I think that's where we work. I think that's where KWC works a lot. I
yeah,
turned down a lot of regional contracts. I turned down a lot of differential contracts, meaning people come like, hey, can we do a differential? I'm like, it's going to take me the same amount of work to sell half a container, and I'll make that with one pallet.
yeah, yeah.
So does it make sense for my business network and how it's set up? It does not.
Right, right.
So I actually tell people, hey, for that coffee, you go to this large importer, keep buying their blender there. I think that's a great price. Let me know when you need like a great pink bourbon, geisha, cedra,
Yeah,
wash coffee. Do you want a coffee just for your roastery that nobody has for a 100-mile radius? I'm your guy. I'll find that.
totally.
If you have a
Yeah,
coffee, people are fun. People will go and they'll send me roasters like in the middle of like, I don't know, Edinburgh, UK, and be like, I want this coffee. And I'm like, oh, cool. I think I actually could find that. That's what KWC is about. It's
yeah,
kind of making it easy,
yeah,
especially for the little guys. So many little guys. I think that we have evolved into the network and into the coffee world at the perfect time. Why do I
I
mention that?
agree.
When I started 5 years ago, our first roaster that we bought was a 1 kg Alio bullet. But I'm sure that when me and you started coffee, there was no bullets and no links either.
Yeah, totally.
So the minimums wouldn't work. But today, with
Yeah,
technology, accessibility to roasters, something that I always feel like I'm the cause of is two things. One that we'll talk about in a little bit, which is called advanced fermentations. And the other one is selling samples. Oh man. It
let's
was
talk about selling samples,
oh
please.
dude. Well, I wanted a little bit of commitment from the roaster to show me
Right?
that you're interested in my company. And I just wanted to make sure that at least me and my producer, at the time when it was me at my home, I worked from my kitchen for 4 years. I wanted to make sure that me and him didn't feel like kind of dumb. I'm just going to use that term like dumb for sending something and never getting a response, not even feedback. At least if I knew the coffee and the shipping was covered, I could sleep at night.
Totally.
Like if you threw it in a bin, where I've seen this at roasteries, and I don't want to name them, I've seen bins and bins full of samples
Yep.
that go into blenders or don't get sold or just whatever coffee. For me, that's sad.
Yeah, it is.
So me charging for it is like, at least if I know you put that in a bin or you threw it out or whatever happened, someone it got paid.
Totally. Yeah, yeah,
The cost is covered.
yeah,
So I feel
yeah.
okay with that.
Hmm.
And I feel that if you're gonna pay for something and you're gonna buy something, you're gonna be like, this has to be good.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we switch it out.
Well,
If you're not happy, we switch it out.
totally.
We're human. We've sent it. I'll say we've sent some stuff that maybe was more over fermented than you're thinking. Maybe it got aged from sitting in our shelves. It's okay.
Hmm.
We make mistakes. I will replace it.
Yeah,
That's totally fair.
yeah,
But today, with a link, you could roast 100 grams, and if I do my math right, and I'm a pretty good barista, we could do 6 cups of coffee from those 100 grams.
yeah. That's right.
You might make $100 off some free samples. So
That's
I
right.
want to make sure I charge the minimum.
Yeah. I mean, I really appreciate that. I was on I did a virtual talk with some folks that were coffee producers, and I was just asking them if they charged for samples, because in my book, one of the things I say is like, you as a salesperson, I'm speaking to roasters in my book, but as a salesperson, you need to define who gets samples, because the term is spray and pray, meaning like oftentimes when you're selling stuff, you'll spray out all of your wares across your prospects and then pray that something closes. And it's not a great approach. It's not tactical, it's not strategic, and it's wasteful largely. And so I was asking them, how much what was the most amount of money you had spent on a sample that you sent to a roaster that you never heard from? And there was all sorts of crazy numbers because shipping internationally is not cheap, and even a small amount. And so I really appreciate that you're charging for samples, because yeah, you're not probably making a ton of money off of it, but you at least need to cover your costs and get some type of financial commitment that you're at least going to hear from them. So that needs to be highlight, underlined, put in bold, italicized right there.
Yeah, I mean, I suggest everybody should do it, and
Yeah.
if we made it a new norm. But to add to that as well is we do charge for samples, but if you take the time to send me an email,
Yeah.
have a conversation with us, to tell me what you need, most of the time I send 3, 4 extra samples. Sometimes, depending on the roaster, I do it for free because that hour of their time shows already that they're committed, that they actually need something. And I'm like, it's okay. And I let it slide. Now that we can, now that KWC is in a position that we can. And the new thing that I'm doing for roasters globally, because we're in a couple other countries that we export to, is I deduct the sample cost from your first set from your full order.
Totally. Yeah. Makes sense.
I got that idea from Roaster. He's like, "Oh, what do you mean? They're charging me for Panamanian samples, but I get it because it's Panama and it's so expensive. But they'll deduct it if I order." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a great idea. I'll do the same thing."
Yeah.
I said, "If you buy coffee, I'll deduct it from your coffee you ordered because
Why
that
not?
makes perfect sense. That's fine. Then maybe you feel better from it. But I'm hoping $45 doesn't break your bank because I'm gonna get
Yeah.
scared if I send you coffee and you can't pay for samples."
I want to go back to something you said a moment ago. You're like, I didn't go to sales school. We're coffee people. When you were describing your sales process, where you ask them for their Instagram, you ask them for their website, and obviously they give you a price range and they give you a structure for what they're looking for from a flavor standpoint and a flavor profile. What I'm hearing when you're saying all of that is you are doing an excellent job on the sales side of things, because what you're doing is you're qualifying them and you're saying they don't need that coffee, they don't need that coffee, they don't need that coffee, they need that one. And that is one, it's a ton of work, but two, you're qualifying your buyers in a way that, speaking to samples, oftentimes green salespeople, they will literally just send you samples and half of them or more aren't even close to what you're looking for. And so I think that you actually, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit for what you're actually doing in the sales process.
I mean, first, thank you.
Yeah.
I think I don't give. It's not even about not giving like our team, and it's not even me alone today, but enough credit. I think it's. I say it that way because everything was so intuitive to learn, and I learned it by doing it.
Sure.
So when I say, "Hey, I didn't take a sales course. Like I didn't go to college for sales. I never took like a marketing course." It never fails to say is I started working in coffee at a coffee bar as a barista. And I want baristas to hear this, and I want roasters to hear this, that we roasted at home on a 1 kilo roaster for over 4 years. The reason I like to share that is because that is what taught me how to get to the point of, hey, how do I solve all these problems that I have? And then people are like, oh, but what are the problems? I'm like, just jump on Instagram. The world could go on fire, and you'll never see KWC be like, the world is on fire. 25 other people just put it. They just tell me what the problem is. Stuff's on fire. And I'm like, all right, well, where's the firefighter?
Yeah.
So it's almost like just there. Like if there's anyone out there, importer, exporter, that will listen to this, and it's like, what do we do? How do we take this approach? I'm like, jump on Instagram. Everybody's just complaining.
Yeah.
Everyone is just complaining about everything that we're not doing. So
Yeah.
those things everybody's complaining about, yeah, be the solution to those things.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
their minimum order is 100 kg. I can sell you 5. Hey,
Yeah.
over here. I don't know. Oh, they don't have coffee like this. We could find it. I don't have the storage, but I'll find it.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of work. Luckily, we've been growing our network and managing. At Origin, we're only 3. Globally, we're 5, like all together. So there's 3 other people actually. So 6 in total,
Yeah.
but all from really young coffee people. I think anyone could do it. I think I have a lot of approaches that are away from coffee actually
Mhm.
that I get into. You know, I think a lot of our sales actually are the experience of the customer when they speak to me, or my experience. I'm sure you've heard about it. It's an older book. Is it Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I am a 4-hour work week guy.
Yeah.
I with confidence and with all the humble, I could have 100 new roasters tomorrow. But Luke, I promise I only want to work with 10 people for the
Yeah.
rest of my life.
Yeah.
I want to make sure these 10 roasters have the best coffees. And and again, it works the other way. I could work with 300 producers. No.
Yeah.
I'd rather work with 10 of the best producers that work in my
Yeah.
network.
Yeah.
Universal Studios, Def Jam Records, they don't have every single artist. Maybe the dudes that have country don't have rap, right? It's totally okay.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing here. I think it's learning. The hardest lesson that we learn in our life as we develop and that I've learned is just say no.
Mm-hmm.
Just say no, I can't do it.
Yeah.
You know what's funner than saying no, I can't do it? If you have the knowledge, direct them the right way. Like I've done with you. Sometimes I just get someone that I'm like, this is just not my expertise. Let me send you to these other people.
Yeah.
People get surprised. They're like, why are you sending me to another importer? Why are you sending me to another producer? And it's like, I just don't have what you need.
Yeah.
One, I need a 5-page PDF traceability and I want to know how many dogs are at the farm. Bro, I don't have time for that. I'm sorry. Like, how many keepers do they have? I don't know, dude. Like we are quality control team. And I think people buy because they're like, dude, at least he told us he doesn't know.
Yeah.
I can find out. Give me like the real question. I have people, Luke, and roasters that do not buy because my PDF sheet with half BS information is not detailed enough.
Interesting.
They don't buy because there's not enough information to build a story on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't sell coffee by points, flavor profile, or story. If you're looking for that, I'm sorry. I will tell you once you order some samples. Samples will be on the way. Roasters buy continuously samples. They'll be like, hey, can you list the price? I'm like, did you cup? Oh, we haven't cupped yet. Nah, I don't want to mess up your cupping. Just cup.
Just cup it. Find what's right.
You go to my offer list. People are so confused. They're like, hey, what does it taste like? I'm like, you roast coffee. They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, I hope you could cup. I mean, I'm saying it here fun with you, right? I want people to know that.
But it's a reality.
Yeah, I want people to do the work. If we are your sourcing team, source with me, source with my team. If you are a roaster and you need help on holding your business, talk to Luke. It's your partner. It's going to help you survive. We have a roaster in our team. You want to talk to my roaster? Talk to my roaster. We have an amazing barista in our team. You want to do better brewing skills? Talk to my barista, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But do your job as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And still, even then, Luke, like you said, I'm still doing a little part of your job if I'm helping you bring down what you want to source. If I'm sourcing to price and I'm telling you what's going to fit on your menu.
Yeah.
That's like me being a barista 10 years ago and knowing what's going to go in your latte, how should it be, how much milk. Same thing. I talk about a mirror. This will be the first time I hear it on a podcast. It's a mirror. So we have coffee pickers, barista, right? We have maybe the roaster or the owner. We have the producer.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our customers at the end. And here at the end, we have our exporter, which is my customer who's buying. It's a mirror, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we look at all the sales tactics that we have at destination to our customer, it's the same thing for us here. It's the same communication.
100%.
It's just flipped.
Yeah.
When you better understand that buying, selling coffee, understanding each part of the coffee network, each part of the chain. Luke, I came here 5 years ago with the thought of like any naive barista or buyer, I'm going to change the world of coffee. I'm going to teach producers what to do at their farm. What in the world was I thinking?
Totally.
I never thought I was going to learn 100 things more about coffee from them, just from hanging out, than I did from coffee 8 years in America.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about it all wrong. I had the wrong mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So with all that being said, it's look, KWC is always going to be a company that we always keep it real. I'm going to tell you what I could do. I'm never gonna put myself in jeopardy just to fulfill an order.
Yeah.
Or gain customers.
Mm-hmm.
If I send you samples and you want your coffee not to be in a 8-mile radius, I'll figure it out.
What I hear from you when you're saying all of this is just you're positioned well. You know who you are and you know who you're not. And I really appreciate that because so much, and a lot of the reason why this happens, in my opinion, is folks are desperate and they are trying to feed themselves and their families, of course. But when you say yes to everything, you're still saying no to something else. And what I'm hearing from you is you're trying to say yes to the right things over a long period of time, and that is going to yield you way better results and better outcomes for both you and your buyers if you say yes to the right things and no to the things that are not a good fit for you. And I really appreciate that. And that's something that we really, really need in our industry and then just in our world today. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for putting it that way. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that I'm doing it the best that I can and like the right way. I mean, I'm always gonna make mistakes.
Yeah.
I think I was always trying to be everyone else.
Mhm.
I think something like free advice, I think you're a person that gives a lot of great advice online and with your consulting as well. And your book is if there's anything you're feeding into on the Instagram, any competitor, any other roaster, block them.
Hmm.
It sounds crazy,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of people I block.
Hmm.
And it might sound horrible and it might sound toxic, but for my mental health and not me
Yeah.
worrying about what everyone else is doing,
Yeah.
I block them out.
Yeah.
And I just became like our company is a racehorse and we
Mhm.
have our blinders on. And
Blinders.
at the moment, if I look left or right, I'm gonna trip
Yeah.
and I'm gonna think, why are we doing that thing? I stopped doing that. I think it's really helped and that book really helped me. I read it very, very young. But yeah, focusing on
Yeah.
those long-term relationships help.
Yeah.
And focusing on people who appreciate us.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, a lot of friends
Mhm.
keep us alive. A lot of our my network is built off friends, and it
Mhm.
protects me in so many ways.
Mm.
It's a beautiful thing when it happens
Yeah.
naturally.
We'll go back to what you had said earlier about the first time we met, and well, I think we were at a cupping or something.
Yeah, yeah, we were at a cupping at Black and White Coffee Roasters. I know the company, but I think we should have mentioned the company.
Yeah, and they're not
Yeah.
like a traditional importer exporter. And you were asking some really thoughtful questions around how they work and how they function and their approach. And you weren't being aggressive or mean, but I felt like the questions you were asking were really thoughtful and you were thinking about it from end to end, meaning from producer to buyer. And I can see that in our entire conversation, you are seeking to ask questions and you're looking at it from the perspective end to end, which is a result of coming from being a barista to the work you're doing now. Where did you learn to ask the questions and to be inquisitive in the way that you have demonstrated?
I think a lot of my mentors in coffee, I got really lucky. I've always been like sponsored and backed a lot by Black and White, especially like Cal Ramage out there in North Carolina. And I think something that I learned that is hard for anybody, right? Away from coffee. So this is kind of like a life, but also coffee life is asking for help. And I think that we're in an industry of built, if we really think about it and we're honest, it's built from introverts and it's built from people who are afraid to ask for help and to ask questions because we feel that if we do that, then we're unintelligent or that we're going to look
Totally.
like we don't know. And honestly, a lot of my questions that I ask, I already know the answer to. And then the other ones I completely don't know, but now I do know the answer. And I think it comes from that. I'll be honest, it came from being a very young know-it-all barista
Oh,
to
sure. Yeah.
really to be
Yeah.
to really realizing I don't know crap. If you ask these dudes that really are my mentors in coffee, who Juan was 12 years ago, I was probably that latte art barista, know-it-all, that I thought I knew coffee variables, that I thought I knew this stuff because I thought nobody else knew.
Sure.
And if I
Yeah.
reflected it now as an adult, right? I started very young. If I reflect now as an adult, there's so many things that I'm not gonna know. But if I never ask, I'm not gonna know. So I think it comes from that. It comes from a lot of mental growth, a lot of career growth, and seeing the result. I think that's the difficult thing. When I think about career growth, is as a barista competitor and what that was to my career is because I asked for help and I asked, hey, I don't understand this, and that helped me meet the people that today they're like my number one buyer. To put it in perspective, like super long story short, I used to sleep on Black and White's couch when they were at Wake Forest when I was 20, 23 years old. I am one of their coffee consultants at Origin, and we send them about over 4 containers a year.
Yeah.
I never knew that was going to happen, but that came from asking for help.
Yeah,
And that's
totally.
how do you do this thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it was a lot of life lessons.
Yeah.
A lot of books away from coffee, books about discipline, books about being a better leader. If you ever ask me, like, what's the goal with like KWC, I just want to be the best example that we can be and the best leaders. And the only way to do that is to ask, what is every other leader in the industry doing?
Yeah.
You know, why do you do it that way? And then just a little bit of intuition. I think listening, feeling it. I think we buy from a lot of people, and I used to do this. I did this as a young green coffee buyers. The terms and these analogies that I use, these concepts of quality coffee and quality people, comes to Origin. I was buying from producers that I didn't feel good with, and I'm like, I earned my ropes, and I was like, we should not go there anymore. They don't appreciate us.
Yeah.
You know. So if I could tell roasters anything or green buyers anything, it's like work with people who appreciate, who want to see you do well.
Yeah.
And it's tough to put it to practice, but it works. And I hope to be an example. Like, I'm always telling my roasters, they text me like, in the end of the year, this year, oh, thank you for this year, Happy New Year. And I'm like, I'm ready for the decade.
Yeah. Totally.
I don't care about 2026. I want to be here for 20 years, man. Yeah, not even. I'm not even thinking about. I'm thinking about the lifetime, and I'm thinking about a lifetime view. Because if I think everything's short term, it's gonna be short term. A lot of we have, so Steven Martinez is our roaster, and we have Paulina that come into our company, and they're like, the core group. I tell them, like, please, this is not a stepping stone. I want this to be your last stone. How do you become a coffee entrepreneur from coming into KWC? How are you happy when you go home? Like, how do I do that? How do I create a business that could be an example to do that? That's just like goals that we have, and that's how we move forward.
One thing I want to highlight is the fact that you trusted your intuition on the folks that just weren't a good fit to work with. And there's a lot of pain that you avoided by doing that. And I'm sure you probably endured some pain when you didn't listen to your intuition.
Yeah, I think most of my pain that I gained from that has been at Origin, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's the truth though. It's sad, but it's hard. Talking to someone every day for 2 years and then deciding we're not gonna buy coffee from you anymore is super difficult.
Yeah.
And it just takes one bad thing. It takes one bad quality thing.
I feel like you're thinking about one story in particular.
I think I have a lot of fresh stories in mind. But yeah, I think I do have. I think, when we talked about Colombia in the beginning about so competitive, it's competitive here who you buy from. It's competitive here who you sell from. Work with the producer, exported their coffee. They're globally known. We love cupping with them. Always did coffee courses with them. And then somebody that learned from them started their own business. And they came to approach us and brought a new profile and a new menu of art. And I was like, cool, like, I would love to promote this. Can I? And they're like, yeah, totally. Well, they started growing and they have their own growth. And there's one producer that I gave him this comparison in Spanish. I said, dude, you are LeBron James in the NBA. You're in the NBA. This dude is playing high school basketball and you're worried about him? It goes the same for a roaster.
Totally.
If you're in Mobile, Alabama, and you're trying to be Black and White coffee roasters tomorrow, what are we doing? And that's where these comparisons come. And it happens at Origin. I think you've mentioned a lot. I listened to your podcast with Lucia, and it's like they're people too, right? Well, if they're people too, producers, coffee growers, agronomists, they all feel jealousy. So that's where we have to make a hard decision. That means you can't be part of the label. This jealousy is intervening with our business. We don't play favorites. We don't ask for exclusivity. Even if it costs me 5 years of income, Luke, I cut it off. Why does it hurt? It hurts because sometimes what's hard to unmantle is the business and friendship part combined.
Right.
It's super difficult. I'm a very logical person. I know how to compartmentalize. But in my culture, or I could talk for my producers, it's difficult sometimes to separate that. When you stop buying practices, you're also ending a friendship,
Yeah.
especially at origin. I think that's a reality,
Mm-hmm.
which is difficult. But thankfully to those things and outgrowing those things, I will always want the best for that person and
Of
that
course.
unit of growers or whatever it was, cooperative, whatever it was. I always wish them the best. And for us, it's just a stepping stone, and it's an artist that is just ready to create their own label.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm totally cool with that. I am totally fine with that. But
Mm-hmm.
please do not come into our coffee label as a producer
Yeah.
and talk about my other artists.
Mm-hmm.
Don't come to a roaster to KWC to talk bad about other roasters that are doing a great job in their own way.
Yeah.
I don't roll with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It shows that you have strict values and you live them. And I appreciate that. You just celebrated your 6-year anniversary. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
6 years.
Congrats. Congrats.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
I also heard that you're adding advanced fermentation as a new offering. Tell me everything about this.
Yeah. So actually, what we had talked about before with that advanced fermentation was it's kind of our fault. It's kind of like a concept.
Okay.
Advanced fermentation, we use it to cover in our labels usually a co-ferment, or a fermentation that requires adding wine yeast or beer yeast. Any controlled fermentation that does not taste of what we know in the world as pure terroir, we name it advanced.
Got
But
it.
I think
Understood.
something that I wanted to share with you that's pretty new is I'm big on concepts. And again, we're gonna go back to the whole Juan, you didn't do business, but how do you come up with these ideas? We're new processing that we're working with a producer, um, we're getting these names from what they're actually doing is called hybrid.
Okay.
So the hybrid process. So a hybrid process is something important to share with roasters. Basically, what that entails is multiple fermentations combined post fermentation.
Okay. Got it.
So,
Understood.
so let's put it easy for a roaster. If you're gonna roast a blender, usually when you build a blender, or you could correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not a professional roaster. Usually, you're gonna roast two coffees different. You're not gonna blend two different
Sure.
humidities, two different densities, right? You don't blend them and then roast them. You roast them and then you blend and you create components. Well, whoever's listening and forgot that Instagram exists and that coffees get blended, well, producers heard that and they're like, wait, what if we blend a wash and a natural? Maybe something comes out for that, so my roaster could taste what he wants from a washed and from a natural. What is the hybrid? It's 3 parts. Imagine blending an advanced fermentation, in this case being a coffee that we add yeast to, and then balancing it out with a component like a washed terroir of the same coffee. And then imagine adding that little bit of fruit that we need from a natural coffee.
Nice. So you're essentially blending in origin instead of creating blend components in the consuming inventory.
Yes, but it's not to mitigate the blending components in the country. It's to create cups that are complex in quality, fitting a flavor profile that is unique. But this comes from producer ideas.
Sure.
Because producers are super tired. They're like, dude, we're adding all these yeast and flavors and pineapple and whatever, and people still want it to have pineapple but taste like berries. What do we do? Or they still want it to be floral, right?
Yeah.
So I want roasters to know that if you ever get green and there's a lot of different colorization, this is not due to the process itself.
Yeah.
More than anything, it's probably a hybrid process where maybe a washed coffee and a natural coffee were combined in the milling.
Sure.
So it happens in the mill. It happens even before I get it. This is not my idea.
Okay.
I didn't start doing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
But producers cut more than ever.
Yeah.
Than ever in their lifetime. They're roasting samples more than ever. So easily what they're doing is cupping, building a really big mass, how we do with roasting, when we get like a big, nice Brazil and we add some Colombian acidity and orange. And then we want, a little bit of a canyon in there or something to add a little bit of this fruit that we want. Same idea, but think about a producer doing it now and introducing me this as one coffee.
I love that. That is so cool.
Now, hybrid is I'm not a scientist, big respect to Lucia and people that are scientists in coffee and in wine. I'm not, but I am a person about concepts, and I am a person that has taught themselves through time about sales. And what I need is for my consumer, which at the end of the day, we do B2C, like we do our roasting, B2C, like customer, and we do B2B to our businesses. I need to find a way to tell them really fast hybrid and then understand, okay, what is a hybrid? If you look it up, it's three or more components together, creating like a hybrid car.
Yeah.
It's two components together. That's it.
Right.
That's what I need people to understand. It's not creating a whole new thing. And I want roasters to understand when they see their green what that is. If I'm able to tell a roaster that, maybe they're going to go into the roast a little bit different,
Got it.
right? And maybe not everybody has the ability to do that. But with the new roaster technology, a lot of people can. You have a lot of like a pre-soak phase. So for anybody that doesn't know what a pre-soak phase, this is where you're drying coffee at a lower temperature right before hitting it with a lot of heat. Some roasters like the lowering have this ability. And when you have the ability to do this, you have a little bit more of an even roast. Super nice function to have. But the reason that producers are doing it and we're actually really liking it is because it's building a complex cup, feeding the needs of what roasters want in higher quality coffee.
Yeah. And it seems like a natural evolution. I'm not trying to speak negatively. I prefer washed coffees personally. No hate to co-ferments, but it does seem like a natural evolution, sort of beyond the like, oh my God, this tastes like, grape juice, and maybe I don't want to drink that every single morning, but maybe I can appreciate that if it's a part of something else that has like a bit more body, like I'm used to in the morning. And that could be a natural evolution on the consuming side of things. Man, that's so interesting. Very cool. Is this coming out of Colombia?
Yeah, I mean, I think other places. I'm going to say Colombia because that's where I'm at. We'll talk about that.
Right.
But let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
If you were to advise a roaster to do a blender for their business, for their hopper, for example, why would you do that?
Why would I do what?
Why would you tell them, hey, I suggest that you create a blender from this build, and this build? What could that help them in?
Yeah. So it's a great question. Thank you for asking it. The reason why I would recommend that is because when you build a blender, you are able to, one, buy in larger quantities for whatever your components are. So there's scale, which is your friend, which is also going to help your dollar amount. The other thing that is important is that it brings balance, and it's easier to dial in when you have. I'm just thinking of the last company or 2 companies ago when I was working for them. Our components was like 80% Brazil, 20% Ethiopia. And it was like the reason for that was Brazil had like tons of body, chocolatey, it was sweet, and the Ethiopia was a washed Ethiopian coffee, and it was citrus, a little bit of floral, and it was consistent and easy to dial in. And so that's what I would recommend to folks, is that if you create this profile around your core component, which is your Brazil or Colombia or whatever it is, and then you can add some additional flavor to kind of bring some vibrancy, that's going to be awesome. It's going to be easier to dial in than if you just throw a single origin at somebody, and it's going to keep your customers happy. That's what I would say.
Perfect. I love that answer, right? So 2 key points there, and for everybody listening, and again, this mirror. You said dollar amount, and
Yeah.
you said it could grow their lot. I work with producers that maybe they only have like 100 geisha trees, but they have 300 Katura trees.
Totally. So they've just increased what they can get dollar wise for their whole farm.
They increased it because I can now say that this is a Katura with some geisha, which is increasing their dollar amount. And more than anything, they're also going to increase the quality of their cup, which as a result, they're going to get paid more for their coffee if they only sent me.
Totally.
It would have took them a way harder and longer time to solely sell those 300 kilos of geisha than it would have to add it to the other thing, have more of a bulk deal, and increase their cup quality. I'm just giving one example.
Yeah.
But we always taught them, right? Us, the roaster, right? The buyer always
Yeah.
taught them, you have to separate it. You have to separate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they're like, wait, well, we put it together and it's going to make my coffee better. And then I got to worry about 4 coffees, but I worry about one really good coffee. That's the same thing you were telling the roaster to do.
Yeah, totally. So if you don't feel comfortable sharing this, is fine. And I know you don't sell coffee on Cup Score, but you had to have cupped those coffees side by side. What happened to the overall Cup Score when you blended these coffees together?
If we're talking about a point system, and just for people who understand and they like the point system, it's probably changed from an 84 coffee almost to an 87, which is a large jump. But
Wow.
let's say
Okay.
that adding that 10% of that differential coffee has increased the complexity that now they technically have 2 coffees, which means
Totally.
they
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
they could send it singular. They could sell this crop singular, but now instead of their menu just offering 1 coffee, now they have 2. And I promote this
Yeah.
because there's different seasons for different varietals. So if you can know what to do with it, it totally works out. So now if it was
So
a farmer that
interesting.
maybe he felt like his menu, he just multiplied it from having 3 coffees to now having 6. Why? Because he just mixed and matched. But I think in the scenario that I'm thinking about is way more in the advanced mind of like producers that are already doing experimental lots. I want to share with roasters that I don't want them in any way or shape or form to feel naive to think that they think that this is due to one process. Like this is not one result. I want roasters to understand that if we were capable of doing blenders and roasting a coffee 3 ways and presenting it as one, it's what you're tasting.
To me, the opportunities are pretty significant, and I'm interested to taste these coffees. When is this? Is there any roasters in the U.S. that have these hybrid process situation?
To be honest, you're the first to listen to it. Soon
Oh,
we will release some. We're gonna keep it at advanced. I'm kind of saving it for like a competition day to introduce the hybrid process and how to do it in a positive way. Because when you release information, it's good to ask if you're gonna hurt anyone because
Yeah.
it's gonna alarm a lot of questions. Because now roasters might listen and be like, "Dang, that coffee that highlights complexity. Maybe there's another coffee in there, or maybe there's another fermentation." It's like, yeah, but it's not the producer's fault that he didn't know what concept to put it in.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
he's
Yeah,
just trying to make you happy. Producers are trying to
of
make you
course.
happy the most that they can. I mean, I
Mhm.
think a big thing that you touched on the Lucia podcast was on co-ferments. And, a big thing that kind of stood out from that podcast with her was she didn't like the fact that it was producer driven. She didn't like the fact that people were saying it was producer driven. And I'm 50-50 on it. I agree with her, and then in part of it I don't. Because I work and I
Yeah.
handle those coffees a lot.
Hmm.
And producers actually like them. And the people who know how to do it correctly like them. I totally agree with her that you're already adding to microbiology a lot more of a fermentation and a lot more of different things that shouldn't be already there that are already active, and we might make mistakes. I agree with that. I agree that
Sure.
we should never
Sure.
tell someone that's starting to do it. I'm 100% on that. But someone that already has a protocol and knows what to feed and do the yeast,
Totally.
that's where the advance came. Advance came for me to tell you that this producer is advanced. He is not. He is a professor at his craft. He's a different type of artist, and this is what I want you to expect. That's where
Yeah.
advance comes. I think the thing is, I think we want to engage different terms, like we did in the past with anaerobic. I love the definition that Lucia did. So I think what we do need though in coffee is concepts that roasters, buyers, and producers could understand. This is where we
100%.
create advanced, and this is where we want to create hybrid. But even to loop everything around, this is where the evolution of my company has come from concepts so I can level with everybody, including the producer. In Spanish, a coffee label, a music label is called discográfica. When we launched that on our year 6, explaining that we work just like a coffee label, producers were like, oh, we get it. They were
Makes
like,
sense.
They're like, it's so fun. We get it. Like some people that we were like in negotiation with, they're always like, hey, how do you guys work? Because everybody wants to just call us the exporter, or the importer, or like the barista group, or anything like that, or oh yeah, those dudes that buy like super high quality. Like everybody always wants to like jump on the menu and they don't know how. I'm like, dude, we're just like a music label. Like, turn your
Yeah.
music. Let me know if I need to pay for it. I'll pay for the shipping. And I just wanted a level playing field. I wanted it to be fair
Right.
to an understanding.
Yeah.
We always had the question of every year at the end of the year, mid-year, what is KWC? What do you guys do? We don't get it. We're an anomaly, dude. I get it. It's fine. I'll be proud of that. You know, we have a box and there's perspectives, and I just want to grab that box and like flip it. I want to grab the industry and just like be like, oh, look how disruptive we can be, because I want to show people another avenue.
I think 50-50 is probably a really solid place to land on that. Is that, yeah, some of them are really, really great and some of them are not great. And I think that the place, and like I'm on this side of the supply circle, I'm for things that put more money in the pockets of producers. So if we can do that and also not compromise their livelihood, I'm pretty happy with that. But I still enjoy wash coffees, I will be honest.
I love wash coffees. Actually, I think those are our favorite as well. Even though we don't play favorites, we do love our wash coffees. I love to buy wash coffees because it's a better price to buy wash coffee today than it is to buy the other coffees, because making
Totally.
co-ferments is becoming way more expensive as well. Overall, with everything going up
Right.
globally, I mean, like
Right.
producing country no matter what. So production of manual labor is hard on a co-ferment. You don't want any mistakes on that as well. So if anybody thinks that, oh, co-ferments are cheap, that no, bad co-ferments could be cheap and not
Yeah.
taste great.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's tough because for me, think about when we had a part of KWC that was called KWC, like the network. I love bringing my childhood without telling people I bring my childhood into KWC. So I loved Cartoon Network, and it was where you found all the best cartoons in one place. So I decided, let me make not a podcast, but let me make a network where if you wanted to watch your producer speak, he could be on KWC, the network. And when you sit with producers and you ask them, hey, man, what do you think of these co-ferments and these things? Some of them were like, we love them, but we love them because they're one example that I always share is my daughter didn't drink coffee. And when I did a cookie dough co-ferment, she drank coffee and now she drinks the wash geisha. And I'm like, that's dope. See, nobody ever thought about that bridge. Everybody thought, oh,
Yeah.
let me fight the co-ferment.
Yeah.
Nobody thought Nobody thought people more than ever are gonna drink coffee. There's more
Yeah.
people being born to drink coffee. And if they start young, yeah, they're gonna drink and buy more coffee, which is great for the coffee industry. It's gonna be a luxury, hopefully in the next 10 to 15 years, because I think it already is to buy 3 cups of coffee a day is a luxury. So if they're getting prepared with those people giving them something that tastes like watermelon Jolly Rancher candy, or you're black and white doing like a birthday cake or whatever it is that they're doing,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're hitting a target group that never drank coffee because they didn't like the wash. That they're just not aiming at your public like me and you. They're not making coffee for Luke and Juan. They know Luke and
Yeah.
Juan. If they want to wash coffee, they know where to go.
Yeah. Totally. Totally.
They're going for the people that don't drink coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going to the breweries that now you have coffee, and instead of them having to do another hop and add a pineapple flavor, they roasted a pineapple coffee, made an extraction, and now it has pineapple.
Yeah.
So I think these are all points to think about. I think, and not to be so close. I think I had a meeting not too long ago, and we were trying to find solutions about exporting and importing our coffee, and we were so stuck on bureaucracy. I hate bureaucracy. Oh, who's gonna be the exporter and who did it? And I'm like, you know what? Let's send that coffee like the producer. I don't even care if you talk about my company. And they're like, what? In the middle of the meeting, and they're like, why would you do that? And I'm like, I don't care. I'm a music label. I need them to have your coffee. I don't care about the
Yeah.
fame. I
Yeah.
care about selling their coffee. I care about them having a badass representative. And I think that's you. And if you're not gonna buy the coffee because some red tape somewhere, forget it. Let's just do it this way. Let's make it
Yeah.
easy. Let's facilitate it. We make coffee so freaking hard. Bad for me to say it because I think I understand it different and I appreciate it different than other people. I wouldn't say I'm like this big coffee like nerd, but I understand it and I see it different. I think my vision is very different when I see a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
I really appreciate your perspective and your approach. And yeah, we have a closing tradition to share a book or two or three that has been formative for you. Could be coffee related, could be business, could be personal. So I'm curious, what have been one or two or three books that have been formative for you?
Okay, so one is more like a discipline thing that I started that I really like. One's called Make Your Bed. And then the other one was recommended by a mentor of mine. And it was great. I got a lot of concepts to become a better leader from it. And it's called Leading with the Heart
Hmm.
by Coach K out Duke
Coach K,
University out
yeah.
there. Yeah, Coach K. And he shares a lot of concepts about building teams and how to keep motivation in teams, about being quietly more than just a sport and being kind of a community leader, leading with your heart without worrying about all the noise. This is another one that I recommend. It's fun because it's probably changed so much.
Yeah.
It's called What I Know About Running Coffee Shops.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
throw in a copybook. But
Yeah.
look, what you hear now, these concepts, these ideas of how to lead and how to lead my own company, right? Um, I learned it from self-help books away from coffee. Coffee for me has always been like this vehicle. Like, we chatted a little bit about it adopted me. We're always going to end on the same note. And in many podcasts, it's like, oh, this is people. You, you do not need to know much about coffee to sell coffee. I think you need to understand people. And more than understanding people, you need to understand and care and love for yourself.
That's
And
so
when you
good.
care and you love yourself, right? You don't need to be like anybody else to fulfill an order. You can come as we are. And
Mhm.
I promise you that just how I speak to you, just like I speak on this program with you, it's how I speak to a roaster. And in the first 10 minutes, I will know if they were older and if we're going to work together well.
The way that you're framing all of this is strictly about, and this even goes back to your approach to sales and your approach to telling people no. It's about knowing yourself. And I really appreciate that. Thank you for reminding us of that. How does a roaster get in touch with you if they want to buy green coffee?
They can reach out via Instagram or our website. Nowhere Coffee is our Instagram, no with a K, and then also at nowherecoffee@outlook.com. They can send an email. kwccoffee.com is our website. Everything is pretty straightforward. If there's any questions, I feel like if you really need something, you will send me a message.
And we'll
Yeah.
link to all of those places in the show notes as well. And Juan, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for your voice in our industry, and thanks for sharing and being honest about some of the hardships, but then also some of the amazing things that are on the agenda for 2026.
No, thank you so much, Luke. Thanks for having me. Thanks for, showcasing KWC and sharing it with your network as well. We appreciate it. I can't wait to share this with our group of people as well.
Likewise, as always, be well.
It's Luke again. I'm back one last time with two questions. Number one, did you learn anything from that conversation? Number two, did you make a new connection, or perhaps there's a new question as a result of that conversation? If either of those two things are true, I'd love to hear about it. Go to my website, pomelocoffeeconsulting.com, hit the contact tab. There's a form down there. I'd love to hear what connections you made, what questions were answered, or what new questions you might have. Let's chat about it. As always, be well.